Welcome back to my channel. I hope you are doing well. So I'm a little bit late to this series, but today I am finally reviewing A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and this series was so good. So let's get right into it. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder is about Pippa Fitzsimmons, who is in her senior year of high school, and she decides to do her capstone project on a murder that took place in her town 5 or 6 years ago. So what the town believes is that Andy Bell was murdered by Sal Singh, but Pippa does not believe that. In fact, she thinks that Sal Singh is innocent because of her previous encounters with him. So Pippa began her project with the intent of sparking conversation and interest as to whether or not Sal Singh actually did kill Andy Bell. But there's someone who does not want Pippa to be digging around and trying to find those answers. So non-spoiler review, so good. All 3 of these books were amazing, and Holly Jackson's writing is just, mashallah, so good. And I was reading all of these, and it very much is a page turner, and the way that Holly Jackson formatted her novels, where especially in the first one, it's partially Pippa's project and partially the actual events that take place in the story, is so enthralling, and it gives you a really well-rounded idea of the story and all the information that you need to get. It's a really clever way of formatting the book. So, who is it? What will it be? I'm gonna go into individual books. Book 1, so cute, so happy, so joyful. I loved it. Book 2, I don't even know how to feel about book 2 because it very much triggers so much that happens in book 3, and it really does act like a bridge between book 1 and book 3. However, it was also just so interesting and so good. Book 3, on the other hand, oh my goodness, crazy. The story overall is very enticing and enthralling, very much a page turner, as I mentioned, and it's just so good overall. It's definitely one of my favorite mystery books or mystery series that I've read because I'm very into mystery novels. I also tend to be very picky about the mystery novels that I read, but this, oh my goodness. I might have already stated on this channel that I'm very cautious when it comes to book talk books just because they have disappointed me in the past. We were liars. Of course I was a little skeptical, but I did hear wonderful things about A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, so I was rather eager to read it, especially because my friends had read the series and they were saying all good things about it. So when I finally started the series, I was just drawn in. It's so good, and it's definitely one of those books that I wish I could read for the first time again. To experience all of that and just the excitement is insane. In fact, I was actually finishing A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, this first one, on a car ride. So I was in the car with my friends, and I was just reading and flipping the pages as I'm reaching the end, and oh my goodness, I was gasping. I was flipping the pages. I was turning around to my friend and asking them what they thought of the story. So very much just overall such a wonderful series. I would highly recommend if you are into mystery, and even if you're not, I think it's genuinely one of the best mystery books that I have ever read. And also the casting for the series, for the show, is so well done. Despite already seeing the casting, when I was reading the book, I was able to imagine Emma Myers or someone who looked slightly similar to her as Pip, and casting her I think was a really good decision. I hope it was a good decision. I'm excited to see the show. I'm so excited for the show. So Holly Jackson, if you're watching this, hit me up. The casting for Pip was so good, and I see BTS photos and I see posts that Emma Myers makes, and I think that is Pip. Okay, so on to the spoiler review. First off, I'm gonna keep that for the 3rd book. Okay, so A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, this one was very good, and it's really interesting how the covers sort of get into the mood of the story. So this one's very much more lighthearted. Everything is very, I want to say surface level, just because we don't understand everything to the fullest extent. We still don't know what actually happened with Barney by the end of it. There are just so many things that need to be answered. We don't understand why Stanley Forbes was talking to Howie. All of these things. So it's very much surface level. It's still very bright. Pip is still very hopeful that she thinks that she can trust the justice system. I honestly had trouble figuring out who actually killed Andy Bell and Sal Singh, because initially I thought It was just one person who did both jobs. LOL. Goodness, this really sets the outline for everything else to happen in the series. And one thing I noticed about Holly Jackson is that she takes Chekhov's gun and utilizes the heck out of it. Because goodness gracious, tell me why she mentions seeing a hairbrush on Andy Bell's desk, or the words HH are written in her agenda, not even focused on, or briefly mentioned, and then they end up being such vital elements to book 3. I was left astounded just by the writing and by the attention to detail. So I didn't really know who was the stalker. I think that's what Holly Jackson did really well, was that initially people would think, oh, it's just one person committing the crime. It was 2 the whole time, and that's intense. That's crazy. It really just leaves your jaw dropped. And Robbie and Pip, they were so cute. For her own sake, Pip should have been a little bit more careful with the information that she was sharing about herself to the people that she was interviewing, because that just put her in positions of danger that she did not have to deal with. But hey, you do it for the plot. What can you do? Let's get into the key part of this story, which was the whole Andy Bell was never dead situation that we had going on for a few minutes. I didn't suspect Elliot Ward throughout the book, only briefly when she entertained the idea at the very beginning, and he just said that Andy Bell was bullying Nat Da Silva, I'm pretty sure. And then after that, I just didn't really consider him. I was honestly thinking it might have been Howie. It likely wasn't Max, and that's because Pip focused a lot on Max in this first book. Red herring, hello, focus on this to divert you from this. As I was reading it, I didn't suspect Max Hastings of having killed Andy Bell or being involved in the Andy Bell murder specifically, or the South Sing murder specifically, although we did get information about him that would be vital in book 2 and 3. But as for this one, no. And then Becca Bell, honestly, I think the people that were revealed to have been part of the crime were the people we least suspected or did not get that much information about. And now we go on to book 2, Red, the blood on her hands at the end of the book. Okay, number 1. Number 2, just you're transitioning. As I mentioned, it's a bridge. Book 2 was something. It was kind of a roller coaster. One thing that I do love about Holly Jackson is that she introduces these fictional cases, and that helps us get a better sense of the world and of, in this publication, Fairview. Again, with the whole Chekhov's gun thing. Pip mentioned that her friend, I believe it was it Zach? Was that his name? Anyways, one of her friends moves out of Fairview because his family felt that there's always something bad going on. The second she mentioned Charlie Green and his wife, there was the new principal, you best believe that I was suspecting all 3 of them at one point. I remember the second she mentioned that there was a new principal and that there were new neighbors, without giving a full reason as to why, I knew that there was going to be some importance with them. The principal, not so much, but Charlie Green, look at what happened with Charlie Green. He ended up, wow, that was pretty interesting. I think I suspected him slightly, just because why do you have a new neighbor? What's the importance of you mentioning that you have a new neighbor? So I did suspect him. This whole situation was rather intense, rather crazy, and the fact that it happened in such a short amount of time made it all so much more intense, because there's so much going on in such little time. Anyways, the most that I have to say about any of the books though is this one. There is something about this cover that sets the mood throughout the rest of the story, and maybe it's the designs at the headings that gave off the mood, but genuinely there was just this dark, gloomy cast throughout the story. There's a stalker. I have so much to say about this. It's very dark. A lot of things happen at night or in the rain or in a cloudy, gloomy setting. So of course I read the summary. I knew that there was a stalker in town, but tell me why nobody questioned Josh when he said that there was a man watching the house. And then Andy Bell's email really sets it off. Here's the thing, Pip has suspected Daniel Da Silva of a lot of things, and so naturally there was that slight suspicion towards him, but not enough. After reading Andy Bell's email, I thought back to the conversation that Pip had with Hawkins and the things that he said, where Jason Bell seemed pretty upset with having that much attention and also that they play tennis. So it automatically establishes that they're friends in some sort. When I started to question Jason Bell, I also started to question or suspect Hawkins, because Andy Bell did state in her email about the police force that the DT killer was practically one of them. Naturally, that would take Hawkins off of the interest list. However, there was still that suspicion. Though Hawkins might have not been the DT killer or been stalking Pip or committed any other crime, he might have still been involved in it somehow. With what we've seen before, there were 2 people involved in the whole Andy Bell cell sync situation. Of course, Hawkins's place was still very interesting. I honestly think that it would be interesting to see or to have Hawkins still have some sort of role or level of involvement with the whole DT killer case, or with Jason Bell. Making him out to be the bad guy just a little bit more would be, I don't know, a little bit exciting, a little bit fun. But once I did read Andy Bell's email, immediately I thought it's Jason Bell. Who else could it be? I still doubted Max a little, but I didn't think he would do something that obvious, especially with the whole case. But I was still excited to see what would happen with Max in terms of justice. I definitely had my eyes on Jason Bell. I knew this guy was not good. But oh my goodness, Pip was not kidding when she said that Elliot Ward and Becca Bell, they were very much a gray area when it came to committing the crimes and the morality behind committing those crimes. Because tell me why, when Jason Bell literally kidnapped Pip and brought her to the warehouse or whatever, you can clearly see that this man is evil. There was no gray area with this man. He knew what he was doing. When Pippa mentioned the hairbrush, and then when Pippa's headphones were found at Jason Bell's house, it left me flabbergasted. Like, it was so unsettling, and it was just so scary. Ravi kind of saved the day with the whole headphone situation. It was scary because, goodness, that must be so frightening. This book was so enticing and just, and then at the very end, well, first when Pippa says, you know, I can't have any contact with you, with Ravi, when she basically has to break up with Ravi to protect him, and he was crying. That made me so sad. And then at the end, 3 minutes after the verdict, it's, hey Sarge, remember me? My turn when? Oh my goodness. And one of my favorite parts about the whole Ravi Pip little relationship was when Barney died and Pip said that she couldn't go on with the investigation anymore, and so he got mad and he left. And then she got mad, she didn't want to talk to him. And then he came by, I'm pretty sure it was the next day, and he's talking to her and he says, you know, it's not because you don't want to continue the case, something happened, what is it? Someone killed Barney, wasn't it? And then the way Pip described like how she started to cry and how he hugged her, oh, that was so cute. The circumstances were awful, but and then when Becca Bell drugged Pip's tea, and then Pip was trying to find a way out, and then she was running away, and then it was just a whole blur, and then it was Ravi holding her at the very end. Honestly, there's so much I want to say about this series, because genuinely it was phenomenal. It was so good. I loved it so much, and like I said, I wish I could read it for the first time again. If you're someone who's interested in mystery or someone who wants to get into mystery, I would definitely recommend A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Out of stars, a good 4.5. Pretty good. Some aspects weren't my favorite. For the most part, I genuinely loved the books. So interesting and so well written. Just absolutely wonderful. I loved it. I loved it. I didn't have much to say about the second book, mainly because just everything that happens with Stanley Forbes was so rough. It really affected Pip. Between the first and third book, she definitely did change. Personally, she was one of the most interesting and at some points even one of the more relatable characters that I've read. She was definitely one of my favorite protagonists. The books definitely describe what it's like to have a hyperfixation on something. In this case, the more extreme. It was so good. Loved it. Loved A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Definitely check it out when you get the chance. I really enjoyed the series. So that's all for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. I definitely did. I love going on little rants about the books that I'm reading. I should probably review more mystery books and just books that interest me a little bit more than the other ones that I've read. I could go on and on and on. but I'll spare you the time. If you have anything you'd like to share about your own opinions on the books down below, definitely do so. And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye-bye. Whoa. Okay.